So I finally finished The Wizard of Earthsea, the first book in Earthsea cycle. And this is the copy that I have, and I want to tell you guys out there, if you're planning to read this, which I think you should, do not buy this copy. This is like so heavy, and it's so difficult to just pick it up and read it. And it becomes very cumbersome now. Now I do lift weights and I do work out as well, but still it was like such an effort to read this book. So if you're planning to read this, just go for smaller individual editions, or probably some other editions, but not this one. It's just look for another edition, and don't buy this one. So quick background for the Earthsea cycle and the Earthsea trilogy. This book, The Wizard of Earthsea, was written way back in 1968, and it is said that Ursula K. Le Guin's publishers approached her and requested her to write a young adult novel, a young adult fantasy, and this is what she sat down to write. How I got to know about this set of books is there was this really wonderful article which was written by David Mitchell, who happens to be one of my massively favorite authors, and he talked very highly about these books. The first book of the series, The Wizard of Earthsea, was also republished as a folio edition. It is gorgeous but way too expensive for me to get my hands on it, and it also has an introduction by David Mitchell. I'm sure that must be a great copy, so if you can actually afford it, go ahead and get that one. That will really be something you can flaunt and put on your bookshelf as a trophy. Now, The Wizard of Earthsea is one of the most heavily acclaimed fantasy novels, and it's hailed not only by the younger readers but by the older readers as well. A lot of people do also accuse J.K. Rowling to copying everything from this particular book and then copy pasting everything for her Harry Potter series. I strongly disagree with that, because I only got to know about this after I finished reading the book and I started looking around for reviews and what the other people had to say about it. While reading the book, I nowhere felt that it had any kind of resemblance or connection with Harry Potter. The feel of the book is very different. The treatment, everything about the story is extremely different, and but people still draw parallels. There's another YouTuber whose video I found, and it was quite interesting how he laid down the parallels between the two books first, and then went on to explain how they do not overlap. So I'll share a link for that video in the description below. You can go ahead and check that video out. Also, I will share the link for the article by David Mitchell as well. That article in itself is a masterpiece. It is so well written. It's an absolute treat to read that article. So I'll share the link for that article as well in the description. Now, why this book is received the way it is, there are so many reasons, and I don't think I'll be able to cover all of that in this one video. But to put it out very briefly, the first thing is that it kind of marks the beginning of the transition of classic fantasy to modern fantasy. The language and the treatment is very literary, but the treatment of the characters is something which is quite different from the treatment of the characters that used to be in the classic fantasy genre. The prose style is delicious. It's very simple at times, and it's very beautiful at times, and it is actually a treat to read this. Now, this is one book which, as a writer, I think I will need to give it multiple readings to actually appreciate and understand the skill with which it has been written. At its core, The Wizard of Earthsea is a coming-of-age story. It's a young adult adventure, and if you try to pick up the plot points, they actually seem very similar to Harry Potter. But I'm not going to get into that discussion. A lot of people have talked about it already, so you can go ahead and check what they have to say. But to mention, it is a story of a young boy who suddenly discovers about his magical past. Then he's sent off to a magic school where he ends up getting into trouble, and then he has to defeat certain evil in order to set things right. Now, David Mitchell said that it's a slim, muscular novel, and I completely understand what he's trying to say. It is a very thin book. It's hardly like not more than 200 pages, but when you read the book, it is paced so well, and everything that needs to be said has been said so efficiently that there is no fat anywhere in the book. And the expression and the language is actually exquisite at times. I'll just share a snippet and I'll put it on the screen so you can read it. You can pause the video and you can read it, and you will see the kind of beauty with which the book has been written. And this is what actually made me like this book so much, because I had kind of written off young adult fantasy, because I read a few young adult fantasies which had come out in the past few years, and I was I was not able to enjoy them. They were overdoses of forced romance, and they were like, it was generally about vampires, and there was nothing new that it had to serve. But this book which is written like, wow, it's actually 50 years old. So this 50 years old book actually reads so fresh, if you want to look at it as young adult fantasy, that it's wonderful and so great to read. It works so effectively as a young adult novel without using any of the tropes that we have established today in the young adult novels. Now, a lot of people have also compared these Earthsea books, and they go on to argue that the world created in the Earthsea books is actually better than the world created in the Middle Earth by Tolkien for his Lord of the Rings trilogy and the other books around it. And I do understand why people would say that, because it is a fresh look and a point of view. And this is something which will not come to you very easily in the first reading, probably. But if you look at Lord of the Rings, we all know that whether Tolkien likes it or not, but Lord of the Rings is identified as hugely allegorical when it comes to history around the world wars. And the white people are shown as superior and more powerful and the right bunch, and the other ones are supposed to be evil. And how the elves and all of them, they do have a very strong racial undertone to the books as well. The Earthsea world is very different, and it's kind of an inversion of that whole idea, because a part of the story does read like that you are reading a comment on the Western invasion on the Native Americans. When you read the text, it does read like an ancient tale that you've been told, and that's the kind of literary quality I'm talking about here, which is consistent throughout the text and never deviates from it. Another thing which I found very interesting about this book was that, as opposed to the conventional idea of fantasy in which you see the good versus evil and both of them are identified as two external entities and they're fighting with each other, this book kind of very successfully and very beautifully establishes that the evil is not external, it is within you, and it is because of you, and everything that's happening around you is in some way or the other because of your own decisions, and you need to set it right. It's your responsibility, and then you figure out how you do it on your own. This is something which is not very common to see in most of the stories that we read, and I find it very appropriate as well, because if I look around at the condition of the world today, and if we see what happened uh, in the US and how people went inside the Capitol building and vandalized everything, well, the person in charge, the person in power, was elected by the people. So people, it was because of people that he was there. So somewhere or the other, people were responsible for what was happening. It's kind of unfair to just blame that, that orange guy is doing whatever he is doing and he is the evil guy. No, you let it happen. The people who voted made it possible, and the people who said that we don't want to vote because everyone is like that and we are superior than everyone else, and no one is good enough for us to vote, you are the reason why that person was able to do what he did. So own up to this, understand that you have the power to set things right, and just wake up and set things right. All said and done, guys, I do understand that this is not a book for everyone. Not everyone is going to enjoy this, because in the first reading it's pretty difficult to peel the layers. The kids will enjoy it, but again, certain amount of children may not be able to enjoy it because of the quality of prose that the book has. So to sum it up, The Wizard of Earthsea is a beautiful book. Give it a try. If you like it, well and good, you are in for a treat. And if you don't, then just understand this book is not for you. So what have you been reading, and what are you looking forward to read next month? And have you read The Wizard of Earthsea or any other books by Ursula K. Le Guin? Do let me know, and we can always have a discussion in the comments down below. Happy reading, guys. Cheers. Pretty difficult to peel the pear, to peel the layer, to peel the pear, to peel the layer, to peel the pear, to peel the layer, to peel the pear.